Hello, welcome to Zen and the Art of Dealing with Office Politics. Uh, Thank you for showing up today. I just realized I made a technical gaffe, and in Zoom it's scheduled for tomorrow, but in all my emails I told everyone it's today. So thank you for showing up, Jay and Cassie and Janet, and another Jay and all right, it's great to have you all here. So, we're going to talk about dealing with office politics. But first, allow me to introduce myself to you. My name is Jamie. I am an executive coach for smart women and people of color who don't like office politics. And I help folks get promoted, get better pay. It's great to have some former clients in this room as well. Welcome, welcome. And my intention here today is to, offer this space and coach you as if you already paid me. And also, I want to walk you through a simple framework that I came up with, a self-study guide that I came up with, and I sent it via email over the last couple of days, but I'm more than happy to walk you through that. Why Zen and the art of office politics? Because in my near 10-year career as an executive coach, career coach, negotiation coach for women and people of color, I've noticed that when we can sort of lean back from the the noise and the drama of office politics, we can access this power that we forgot we have. And we talk about this very specifically when I coach my clients through negotiation, self-advocacy. It's like, what if we can detach from specific outcomes? What if we can let go of the need, the attachment to like, oh, people have to like me and respect me and give me what I want? What if we can let that gently go, but also remain rooted, present, alive in the moment, in the act of taking a stand for ourselves, right? And I believe that is where our power truly lies. I've also been actually starting to practice. I've actually started to go to Zen centers here in New York City and sit down with Zen monks and try the meditation and the ceremonies. It's been a very eye-opening, illuminating experience. And that's why I thought, what if we just blended all of it together in this fun and slightly quirky way? And that's why I put together the self-study guide, called it Zen and the Art of Office Politics. I don't know if y'all had a chance to take a look at it, but what I did was I've offered different modes of responding to conflict with an Asian flavor perspective. Yeah. Um, but before I get into all of that, thank you for showing up on Friday instead of Saturday. Thank you for all of you are here. Some of the things that I teach my coaching clients are based on neuroscience, like actual techniques and tools that help us downregulate our nervous system, change our brain state so that we can access our thinking brain, our negotiating brain, our sense of presence and aliveness. And one of the neuroscientists, the brain scientists who have informed the work I do, his name is Dr. Les Fehmi, spelled Fehmi, and he is known for his book called The Open Focus Brain. And let me give you the Cliff's Notes version. Let me give you the highlights of his book and his body of work, which is that we in our modern society have a tendency to narrowly focus our attention. And when you think about how we are all conditioned and we all are addicted, sort of addicted to our phones, like by default, we narrow our focus and we get like tension headaches. because we're so focused on a little screen. We get so focused on a small problem. We get so focused on how we think things should be, right? And before you know it, like there's tension in your body, there's tension in your head, and there's stress, or sometimes people experience chronic stress syndrome or chronic pain. And he makes the connection between this narrow focus, literally narrow focus of our eyes and uh, our attention to the kinds of stress and stress-related symptoms that are so common. And when you think about everyone who like people who are very driven, ambitious, they want to succeed, almost always they're like, I need to focus. I need to narrow focus on this and get it done. Why is that? Because we are also in a society and culture that what's the right word here? Like uh it, it makes as if that sort of focus is like heroic. You know, how you can just narrowly focus on your studies and get an A, narrowly focus on the problem and get to the solution, right? And and sometimes that sort of narrow focus serves a function. We need to be able to narrowly focus on our little screen so that we can read the email that got urgently sent to us, be able to shoot off a response. Sometimes if you're, take for example, if you're technical, you need to be able to focus on a line of code or be able to find the specific root cause of the problem so that you can get to the solution. So there is definitely function to that narrow focus, but the problem in our culture is that we just have a tendency to overdo it. We typically don't know how to let that narrow focus relax so that we can access other parts of our brain. So to put it in the language of neuroscience, what Dr. Les Femi did was he actually charted, he showed us through biofeedback and brainwave fMRI studies that that narrow focus, that chronic narrow focus is associated with high frequency beta brainwaves. And when you look it up on the internet, you'll notice the high frequency beta waves are very narrow and erratic, right? So it almost looks like your the heart rate chart when you're like very anxious and your heart's going right? The high frequency beta brainwaves look a lot like that. And then he noticed these people who meditate, people who access different parts of our brain or can turn on a different part of the brain. Say, for example, monks, their brain waves look a lot steadier, calmer, consistently. So it goes from high frequency beta waves to alpha waves, and alpha brain waves look more like steady, calm brain waves or C waves, right? And it's the kind of brain state that you are in when you're just about to get up in the morning or just about to fall asleep, when you're sort of in that like wakefulness, but you're still alert and you're still relaxed. Yeah. And he noticed that when you can go from that high frequency beta brainwaves to alpha brainwaves, synchronized alpha brainwaves, because it's synchronized with your biorhythm, with your heart rate, with a steady, calm heart rate. He noticed that when people are in that state more often, their stress symptoms tend to go away. And when you're less stressed, you're more creative. When you're more creative, you can come up with more solutions. When you come up with more solutions, things that seem like a big problem tend to seem like, oh yeah, I can see it from a different perspective. I can think of other solutions as well. So with that preamble, I'd like to invite all of you who made it to the right day, the right time. I'd like to invite you to a brief brain training exercise that you can put in your back pocket and use whenever you'd like, especially if you notice that you're feeling stressed about office politics or office drama. Okay. So for People who are here, I just ask that you not be driving or walking outside in this moment. Almost all of you have your videos on, and I can see that you're all sitting, which is great. You can eat, that's okay. But for the people who are listening to the replay, please don't do this while you are driving. Um, it's probably best when you are seated and you can sort of comfortably relax for about, I don't know, 3, 5 minutes. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. First, I invite everyone to simply put your palms up like this. Yeah. And now we're just going to rub them together. You can go fast, you can go slow. Just bring your attention to that sense of friction between those two palms. And now slowly and gently pull them apart. Yeah, something I like to do is like I like to go like this, just move those hands. They're apart, but I'm like almost creating a circle with my hands, and then I can notice this electromagnetic field that I just created out of thin air. And that's almost kind of like a trippy experience for me. And now what you're going to do is open these two palms and let's just pretend you're seeing these two palms for the very first time. I just ask you to suspend disbelief for a moment and pretend like, wow, never seen these palms before. And you notice the lines in your hands. I notice there's some parts that I get a little wrinkly, a little bumpy, the different colors. And I also notice the sense of heat and aliveness, maybe some tingling. And as you notice these two palms, this time I invite you to shift your focus to the spaces in between those fingers and the space between your two palms. And notice what that's like to bring your attention to the spaces in between in between the fingers, in between the palms. And as you notice what that's like, for me, that's like, wow, that's unusual. That's just different. And now bring your attention to how all the spaces in between the fingers blend with the space behind and around your two palms. Yeah, notice what that's like. And as you maintain that awareness of the spaces in between the fingers, now imagine all that space blending with the space between those two palms and your face. Just noticing what that's like. And now notice what it's like to allow all that space, the awareness of this space in between the fingers and the space between the hands and your face. Now allow that awareness to blend with the space behind your head. And notice what it's like to bring an awareness to the space between your two eyes. And now, as you notice the space between your two eyes, maybe you notice yourself starting to breathe just a little bit more deeply and comfortably. And as you do, maybe also bring that awareness. Let all the spaces blend with the space inside your nostrils and the space within you, the space of your airway, blending with the space within your lungs. And as you notice what that's like, to bring your awareness to the space within, notice what is that like to notice the space between your two brains. We all have two hemispheres. What is that like to notice the space within you blending with the space in between the fingers? And perhaps As you maintain that awareness, you let the two palms relax, whichever way they want to seem to relax on their own. Exactly. And notice what it's like to notice the space in between your lungs and the space blending with the space within your rib cages. And notice if you can allow that awareness of the space blend with the space between you and the walls. And perhaps that awareness of the space all around you, just imagining that space extending maybe beyond this building that you're in. And as you do, notice what that's like inside. Just to be raising your awareness within and around you. Now, I invite you to bring your awareness to your heart space. And maybe you simply notice what it's like to bring your awareness to all that space within your heart. Neuroscientists lets us know that in your heart space are thousands and thousands of nerves, neurons. It's as if it's another brain in your heart. And with your attention in your heart space, what does the brain in your heart want you to know about you, about your career, about whatever drama or politics that you have been encountering? Notice if anything comes up, and if not, that's okay. But now I invite you to just bring all of your awareness to your gut. Once again, neuroscientists tells us there are thousands and thousands of neurons right there. Another brain in your gut. And now, as you breathe comfortably and deeply, when you bring your attention to the brain in your gut, what does the brain in your gut want you to know? That's most relevant. That's most useful for you to know. And once again, it's okay if it's just an inkling or a feeling, or maybe it's a message, but trusting your own gut, your own seat of intuition on all of this. Whenever you're ready, maybe you'll feel yourself just wanting to take a big stretch, maybe just shaking this off. Yeah, I appreciate all of you who followed along for that journey. If you want to share what that was like for you, if you want to share in the chat, or if you want to unmute yourself and let me know what came up, I'd love to hear it. Yeah, what was that like for you, Cassie? What did you notice?
Yes, thank you for leading us through that. Um, it's interesting. I don't know exactly what you said, but my mind just started thinking. And obviously, so I do practice meditation. When you meditate, like I've been trying to let go of the expectation of like not to think and not to have thoughts, but
Mhm.
brain will continue to have activity. And so for me, what came up was some of the corporate PTSD I've been like working through, and I've been actively trying to let go. So if anything, it was informative that there's still some more healing and acceptance around that. I thought I moved forward and I thought I was in a new
Mhm.
place. But no, I'm not. And so thank you for that
Well,
clarity.
I could totally relate. whenever I have tried to meditate, my mind is so busy that I'm like, no, I just need to redirect my brain. And what I just walk you through is what I do for myself when I'm told to let go of all thought. I'm like, I don't know. I don't know how to do that, but I do know how to just bring my attention to the space in between my hands, the space, inside of me, the space in between my ears, the space in my lungs. And I just notice my energy and my focus shifts in a way because my brain state is changing. Yeah. Cool.
Hmm.
Thank you so much for sharing, Cassie. I appreciate that. Jay, would you like to share anything?
Me?
Yes.
I'm Nita, by the way.
Oh, hi, Nita. You're Nita. Okay.
I felt sleepy.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and then I think that makes sense because you said your brainwave tend to kind of like lower as you want to go to sleep. So I was like, oh, I'm sleepy.
Yeah. Yeah. It
Yeah,
can also be a progressive relaxation, right?
yeah,
That makes a lot of sense. I'm
yeah.
curious, when you brought your attention to either your heart space or your gut, did either one of you notice or become aware of anything? And that's okay if you didn't. I'm just curious.
Mm-mm.
Okay.
I was sleepy.
Yeah, all right. Okay, so yeah, this could be a relaxation technique as well. Okay, cool. So, the thing about office politics, I've been coaching for close to a decade now, one-on-one, and I've noticed that whenever people say, I don't like office politics or I don't like what's going on in the office space, it's because of three key elements. Number one, the first thing is power differential, right? You perceive, or it's stated in an org chart that someone has more authority, positional power, a bigger title than you, right? And there's also the perception of a power differential. Sometimes we just feel as if we have less power than the other people that we're dealing with in the workplace. I was thinking about how when I was younger and I did work in the office for other people. Now I work for myself, but when I did work for other people, I used to think about my micromanager boss obsessively because it seemed like he was the cause of all my unhappiness. Until one day, my life partner set me down and he said, you know, you're in control of your career, right? And for some reason, that thought hadn't crossed my mind. It hadn't crossed my mind that I can decide to stay, leave, whatever, right? That ultimately I'm the arbiter of my career direction. Exactly, CEO of my own career. And so now, it's been, I don't know, close to 2 decades since I last worked with that particular person. And I realize I don't think about that person at all, right? Because ultimately I made the decision to leave that job and change career and then go work for myself. um, I had perceived a power differential. Yes, on paper, he had a bigger title. On paper, he was the person who would assign work to me. But ultimately, as Nita mentioned, I still remain the CEO of my career, right? So it was that perception of power differential that had led to me sort of obsessing about this person that I don't really care about. I don't think about anymore. Yeah. So there's the power differential. And the second thing is the mismatch of conflict styles. According to psychologists whose names are Thomas and Kilman, their last names, they have come up with this model, a conflict approach model. And within this model, there are 5 different ways to deal with conflict when you don't agree or if you have a different perspective from your counterpart. You can either compete, you could be like, hey, no, my way or the highway. Or you could be like, maybe you and I could be both right and wrong, and maybe we need to work together, so we collaborate. And, the bridging gap is we compromise. Maybe, I meet you in the middle, give and take. But then there is the other side. If you are not assertive at all, when you don't try to assert your ideas at all, you can either avoid or accommodate. Just like, sure, you have your way. And in my experience, a lot of women, not all, but a lot of women, including myself, we have a tendency to either avoid or accommodate, not because we are not confident, not because we're not competent, but because we have been conditioned to associate conflict with danger. And because, as Emily says, we want to be likable and agreeable. And when we think about, wait, why is it that we want to be likable and agreeable? It's because society has conditioned us to believe that being liked and agreeable is how we remain safe in a world that isn't always hospitable and friendly to women and people of color. Yeah. But almost everyone I've talked to, we want to grow. We want to keep growing in our leadership, in our income, in our impact. We have ambitions for growth, right? And so my take on the Thomas Kilmann conflict model and the five different approaches is that what we really want to be is become conflict flexible. Right? Not just habitually leaning into accommodate and avoid, but we want to be able to lean into the assertiveness. We want to be able to lean in to either making a compromise or collaborating with other people so that we can be most flexible and adaptable to the specific context, to the specific details of a given situation. And that's why, let me see if I can share this with you. That's why in the self-study guide that I shared ahead of time, if you didn't get it, please let me know. More than happy to send it to you. Let me share the slides really. Oh, okay. I got a new computer and it's a little bit confused, but let me see. Oh, okay. I have to adjust some settings, but I'm gonna trust everyone got the self-study guide, right? Okay, I see some head nods, so I don't have to share my screen. I have to I have to change some settings on my end to do that. Okay. But as you will see in the self-study guide, I offer you like a very simple, like kind of like a choose your adventure kind of decision tree, right? Do you have authority in the situation? Are you managing a direct report who's disagreeing with you? Or is it something that you don't have direct authority over? It maybe you're the direct report and you have a conflict or disagreement with your boss. In that case, okay, maybe asserting immediately is not the best decision just yet, right? But if you are the boss and time is of the essence, and it is something that you need to make a decision on, then it's actually more beneficial to your team, to the project, for you to lean in and say, no, this is how it gets done. And as women, we do know that when we lean into this is how we get done, it's not always met with fanfare. It's not always met with, oh my gosh, you're being a great leader. Sometimes you hear, oh, why is she being so difficult, right? And we have to sort of lean into kind of a don't give a bleep kind of attitude, not because you're being aggressive, but because it is in service of the bigger picture. And that's why, if you look at the slides, you'll notice that I have the photo of Korean aunties. Korean aunties, were famous for having sharp elbows, famous for being like really, really like direct, right? Uh, they never mince words when they just want to tell you like it is. And they're not the most popular people. but they're sort of like the backbone of Korea society. And whether you're Korean or not, I'm sure you have, in the Latina community and the Indian community and the Black community and other communities, like you have your own version of that like fierce female um person who is like, yeah, this is how it's going to be, not because I'm greedy, not because I'm being self-centered, but because this is what is in best service of the people I love. And I learned this recently that in Korean Buddhist culture, they call Korean mothers bodhisattvas. And there are two reasons for this. Um, the Korean word for bodhisattva is 보살님, and 보살하다. It's also a similar sound as to take care, to nurture. And so, oh, women, mothers, nurture, right? But also, bodhisattvas, they sort of defer their own enlightenment in service of the greater good. And so, like, mothers, they do that, right? Aunties, sharp-elbowed aunties, they do that. And so it's sort of my own cheeky take on let's not be afraid to be assertive. Let's not be afraid to not be the beautiful K-pop or the models, but like a force of nature that is required for the situation. So there's that. And um, sometimes when you are so upset about a workplace conflict, sometimes when your nervous system is so activated that you can't think straight, you can't talk straight, your heart rate is beating really fast, your brain waves are high frequency beta waves, and you're like, right? The best thing to do is lean back. Right? The best thing to do is take a pause. The best thing to do is let's take 15. The best thing to do is like, let me first gather my breath, gather my thoughts, and then re-engage, right? So it's about being context aware, but also compassionate to yourself. And the version that I offer in my self-study guide is like, think about it as like mist over mountains. If you look at beautiful Zen Asian paintings, they love to depict these the beautiful mountain peaks covered in mist, and mists are temporary. Yeah. So sometimes when you can't think straight, when you can't activate your thinking brain, okay, just consider it's a mist. Let that pass so that you can perceive the situation with more clarity. And there are three others, of course, accommodate. There is compromise, there is collaborate, all of that, the details of which you can read about in the self-study guide. And if you have any questions about that, I'm more than happy to discuss with you in this call. But I think one thing to take note of if you are in a conflict situation with somebody at work is notice, what if I'm taking an approach that does not either match the full context, the real situation at hand? And what if it doesn't match the other side? What if the other side is taking an approach, maybe they're leaning in, they're being all assertive, and you're not either meeting them head on, or if you're avoiding, it's like maybe there's a mismatch between uh the styles of the counterparts, right? Because if someone is leaning in and you're hiding, not because, you don't have something to say, but because you're like, this is just too uncomfortable, I don't want to deal with it, and that's just your habitual way of dealing with conflict, then um, even if you do take a momentary pause to collect your thoughts, and if you don't come back and try to at least try to compromise or collaborate with the other side, then you're going to have things that go unaddressed, right? And when you have things that go unaddressed, I've noticed sometimes that becomes like a chronic problem. Yeah. Or it blows up later in ways you either don't want or didn't anticipate. Yeah, I see some heads nodding. Yeah. Okay. So finally, um, The third element about office politics that's important to consider, we talked about power differential, the perception of power differential, as well as different conflict styles and the mismatch of conflict styles, whether it's your approach isn't uh, addressing the situation or whether it's a mismatch with your counterpart. And then the third thing is, what are you making it mean about you? What are you making the situation mean about you? For example, I've had clients who, give an example, who have been disappointed because of reorganizations, because of decisions that were made by leadership that they had nothing to do with, but they don't like how things were decided for them. Yeah. They didn't lose their jobs, their job changed, or the person they report to is no longer the person they used to report to. This the person they're now reporting to is a different person, and it all feels chaotic, which is totally understandable. But then in that moment, do you make it mean that you have less power? Do you make it mean that you're not where you're supposed to be? Do you make it mean that you've been demoted? Do you make it mean that you've been left out? Which is totally normal and common, right? Understandable. But then what you make it mean impacts how you feel about you, and how you feel impacts how you show up, the conflict style that you decide, how you decide to approach the situation. And then it impacts your self-perception, it impacts your power perception, it impacts your a lot of things, the results that you have, right? So these are the three different levels that you want to raise your awareness about when you encounter a situation at work that you don't like. What is the power differential? What is the conflict approach? Is it appropriate for the situation? And what am I making it mean about me? And the third thing, what am I making it mean about me is often where I spend a lot of my time coaching my clients through, because that becomes the prism through which you interpret and you problem solve. Yeah. And the beautiful thing about what you make it mean about you is that it's totally optional. It's easy for our brains to be like, oh, it means that, uh, I've got the losing hand, or it means I've I've lost something that I should, it's easy to make it mean something negative because our brains have a negative bias. But when we just observe, not unlike a meditation, when we get to observe and get curious about what we make the situation mean about us, we notice we have choice in the matter. And we have choice in the matter, we have power. Okay, so with that said, I'd love to open up the floor. Do you have any questions about what I have shared so far? Was anything unclear? Or is there something that you would like to talk through? Anything top of mind? Yeah, you can unmute yourself, Emily. Just
Hi,
tell me,
Jamie.
hi, good to see you. How are you?
I'm good. So I wanted a lot of the things that you talked about are like, well, they're always relevant to me, but they're also super relevant to an incoming conversation that I have with my boss.
Okay.
I had a feedback review that was mostly like very successful, but there were some like ways that there were some elements of feedback that were like pretty, I'd say harsh. And so I'm like proud of myself because I actually negotiated for us to co-rewrite that part together. And that conversation is happening on Monday. And so I do have a little bit of time to like kind of prepare for it. And so like the points that you were making about like interpreting things of what it says about you really resonate with me, and I wondered if you had any like suggestions of like how to approach this joint conversation, because I would say that it is whether or not my boss realizes I believe I'm steeling myself for a negotiation.
Love it. Okay, so you are co-rewriting together your performance review?
Yeah.
Wow, this is well done. How did you arrive? Um, okay, so first of all, I want to celebrate and acknowledge that you turned something that could easily be misinterpreted as, oh no, this is bad, into an opportunity to collaborate. It's like, let's work together.
Yeah, that's kind of how I framed it for him. I said that, you're going to write what you're going to write, and then I'm going to ask that it be changed in this way or that way. And I said, I feel like this dynamic sets us up for an adversarial relationship, when really I think we should be approaching this as a team to solve this problem.
Yeah.
And so rather than you write something, then I write something, and I ask for this change, and it just positions us in a way that I don't think is healthy. What I'd rather do is have it be you and me against the problem rather than you and me going back and forth. Um,
Beautiful.
yeah,
I love
but
that.
yeah, but really, it's like, because here's the thing: is that he had some critiques of some of the things that I did, but I also have critiques of the way that he helped or didn't help me when I was like raising flags and those weren't responded to. So I'm like, since there's a part for feedback review, like upward feedback on that review as well, like let's not like make this descend into madness. Let's both win. Let's both, you know what I mean? That was kind
Yeah,
of the approach
yeah.
that I had. Yeah.
How can this be even better for you?
Well, I think it's like, I guess there is still that power imbalance, you know. And I don't know that I'm going to be able to have him see things from my perspective. And I'm not an experienced negotiator.
Okay,
And
that's a
so,
lie. That's absolutely a lie. Because I've talked to you at least 3 times before, and every time I heard about how you negotiated, and you just negotiated this opportunity for you to co-rewrite your review together. So it's not true that you're not a good or an experienced negotiator.
okay,
Both lie. But I guess my
thank you.
real question is, what is an ideal outcome for you?
I think the outcome that I'm looking for, like, in like a very kind of petty sense, I guess. Like, or there's two levels to it.
Mhm.
The like petty maybe isn't the right word, but like a small win would be that like the language that he used on my review is softened and reframed, and that it also includes his parts of things. So, for instance, like, I don't want to get too much into the details, but part of the feedback was, well, you didn't do well, like, or, under a stressful situation. And I was like in a situation where I was working 14 hours of overtime a week for 5 weeks and asking for help and not being given more resources. And so I'm asking for shared accountability on like an environment where a stressful situation was allowed to continue. You know what I mean?
So
So,
then let's go to, like, let's say you and your boss rewrite this review in a way that you feel is more accurate, right?
yeah, it's like in a way that is like I'd say a little bit more charitable
Okay.
to the times that I was like less than perfect,
So
like
let me ask
given
you
the
a question about that.
context.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why does it matter? Why does the language? Because it leads to what? Oh, you're having two conversations at once. You can, yeah, you can talk to your kid.
she's working on some math and she needed to know what's 8 plus 9. Um,
So
so,
why does the review matter is my question.
okay, so that's a good question. Because I also thought, does this matter at all? Does it? Well, I thought it could matter if there's like, if they are seeing like for my job security, if there's a pattern of like negative reviews like that, that could matter for like long term. But also it matters for me because I think that I think that it matters to me how I'm perceived, and it matters to me how I accept the definition of myself, and if I accept it or if I like reframe it. Because I feel like if I accept somebody's viewpoint of me, then like that that like makes it true in some people's mind or something like that. And I want to be an author of who I am.
Maybe because, just because it's written down on a review and it has words, everyone interprets it in different ways. Like you've seen one movie with your life partner and they have a completely different perspective, even though you saw this very same movie. It's kind of like that, right? So just because it's written down doesn't make it law, doesn't make it absolutely true about you. But that begs the question, what is the narrative you want to bring? Then what is the narrative that you want to honor through this?
Well, for me, like the narrative that I that I think is more important, like that I would like to have is that I can make mistakes and be corrected, but that doesn't make me like not a valuable contributor or not like a person who catastrophizes, which is one of the words they used, and things like that. Yeah.
Okay, so I think what do you want to attend to your child? It's okay. Gives me a moment to gather my thoughts. So cute.
I gave her a math assignment to get points to earn Pokemon cards.
Oh,
But now I'm doing the assignment.
okay. Um, to summarize, to bottom line, what I'm hearing is I think you want to bring the narrative, champion the narrative that you're somebody who is dedicated, but of course, there's always room for growth, right? And sometimes you make mistakes, but you're willing to learn and adapt to those mistakes. Yeah. Okay, I think you said I'm gonna write this down, right? Yeah. And you could be like all those examples that you bring, all the examples that your boss brings. Ultimately, it just points to, yes, I'm a dedicated professional and I have room for growth and I'm learning from all of this. And one of the things that I want to share with you, I was talking about the self-study guide, and you're collaborating. And I use the metaphor of martial arts sparring dance because when you spar, I don't know if you have any exposure to martial arts, whether it's Taekwondo, Tai Chi, yeah, I do, karate, whatever. When you do sparring, it's not like I'm going to beat you to a pulp, I must win. It's not like that. It's like, yeah, we're working together, we're collaborating because we're all both trying to improve our skills. We're all just trying to learn and help each other get even better.
Yeah, I really like that reframe. And I think that's right, that rather than like getting caught up in like semantics,
Mhm.
it's the overall like picture of being like a dedicated person who has room for growth. And I'm also going to try to use it as an opportunity to get like communication coaching from like we have this like fancy or organizations called like Within Us. Maybe you've heard of it, Jamie, Within People, Within Us. And usually it's just reserved for like the senior leadership and upper management to get those coaching. But I'm going to say, like, if I have all of these issues that you've so clearly laid out, then maybe I could get this elite coaching, you know?
Yeah. Okay. I love it. I love how you're like, hey, let's use this as an opportunity for growth.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. What can I get?
I noticed where your daughter gets her skill for negotiation chops from. Excellent. Okay. Anything else about this we haven't yet addressed?
I feel like you've been so generous with your time that I'd love to hear from someone else too, but thank you.
Well, thank you, Emily. I appreciate you. Yeah, Cassie, what's up? Yeah, you can unmute
Okay,
yourself.
here we go. Well, first, I want to thank Emily for bringing a real world experience and just demonstrating vulnerability. What I was hearing, just in Emily's experience, is the real challenge of trying to mitigate the, the long-term risk of a potential negative performance review and the feelings and emotions that kind of come out of that particular scenario. And Jamie, I really appreciate how you helped reach, like, shift the mindset. So that's definitely like, okay, like knowing that the fear comes, like, what is next? But I'm curious, have you found any practical tools or tips to, I don't want to say prevent the fear coming up, or like, just like I would have gone into the same action of like, oh no, this occurred. What's the long-term risk? And I don't know. Maybe I just accept that that's just going to happen. And, you know,
Well, you see, that's the story making. Our brains are wired for story making. I
okay.
know mine is. Mine has a fervent imagination. And whenever I see something, it's like, oh, no, 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 this means, da, 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 da. And then now it's going to the future and decades. Now somehow I'm a bag lady. My brain does that all the time, more often than I like to admit. So fear is always imagined.
Mhm.
And so sometimes just noticing, oh, there's that fiction my brain is conjuring up again. Interesting. Just let me just notice the fiction. Yeah. I think for me is a big step where sometimes I just say out loud to myself and my brain's like, oh, this everything's gonna go wrong. Fear, right? I'm like, maybe, maybe not. And then the third thing I do is I teach my clients, this is another research-backed tool. It's called emotional freedom technique. And it's something that you can look up. There's tons and tons of resources available on YouTube and online for free. I teach my clients a really simple and efficient version of EFT. And maybe we can all do it together before we wrap up. Okay. So if you're thinking of a situation, you're like, oh my God, it's, like, Emily, what comes to my mind is what you're experiencing reminds me of when I got a B. And I was a straight A student. And I'm like, oh my God. No, 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 no. I once got a C in gym because I forgot to bring my clothes. I forgot to bring my change of clothes like 3 times, and they're like, well, every time you don't bring your gym clothes, it's a letter grade knockdown. And so I got straight A's and a C in gym once in junior high. And I was like, oh my God, this is the end of my life. Sometimes,
Yeah, you have me clocked.
yeah. And so you're like, is that true? Time absolutely helps, but sometimes you just want to be able to sort of lean back and is that really true that this is going to have a negative long-term consequence? Or maybe it's just, yeah, maybe it's just a blip, right? But anyways, I'm sorry, I digressed. I fell into the bunny hole about the C in gym class. EFT. I want you to think about a particular situation that does conjure some anxiety, some concern, some worry, right? Not full-blown panic, but you're like, yeah, it makes me kind of worried. Yeah, okay. Keep it in mind. And now I'm going to ask all of you to rate the level of intensity of that fear, worry, concern. Like between 1 to 10, what number would you rate it? Maybe you could type it into the chat or just keep it in mind. Okay, great. So, okay, 6, 8, question mark, 7. Excellent. This is great. So now you're just gonna keep an awareness of that thing you're thinking about. But now I invite you to put your palms up one more time, right? And the reason why we use our palms is because, and every time we do this, did you know that you engage both sides of your brain? It's kind of fun to keep that in mind. And now what you're going to do is you're going to gently tap the very top of your head. Yeah, yeah, exactly. Gently tap the very top of your head and just say out loud, I release and I let this shit go. Or I let this poop go. And now you're going to tap the third eye spot where you kind of feel like touch both sides, both eyebrows. Say, I release and I let this go. That's right. And now the side of your eyebrow. I release and I let this go. Yeah. Under your eye. I appreciate I am safe in this moment. Yeah. And then you're gonna tap your breastbone right here where you can kind of touch, feel both your breastbone and collarbone. And maybe you say something like, my survival was never a threat. And so let's do it one more time. I release and I let this go. I deserve to feel good. That's right. I might be imagining things right now. And that means now you're going to tap under your eye. That means I can imagine better things for myself. My survival was never at threat. And so now you're going to grab your wrist. Everyone did a great job following along. Beautiful. Take a deep breath, the biggest inhale you've taken all morning. And exhale. All right. Now, when you rate one more time, now when you check in with yourself, what number would you give it? Let's just check in and notice. 2. Wow. Yeah, from 6 to 2. All right, from 7 to 5. Excellent. Great. Great. Yeah. So again, there's a lot of research that shows this EFT technique helps to down-regulate the nervous system and help you shift out of a negative emotional state. Yeah. So it's something I teach my clients. I have some videos on YouTube about it as well. Um, it's something that you can practice on your own, in the bathroom, if you're at work. Yeah. Okay, cool. Um, anyone else? Janet, do you want to talk through the situation or
Yeah, do we have a few more minutes for that?
absolutely. We have minutes for you.
I told Jamie the end of this story before we got started, but here's more of the beginning of the story.
Okay.
My supervisor took away all my areas of ownership, then wrote me a negative performance evaluation because I don't show ownership. He criticizes me for absolutely everything I say and do, and now he seems all shocked that I'm avoiding talking to him. What that led to this week is he is threatening to fire me because I took a couple of extra telework days, which is a completely normal process. And because it's completely normal, I didn't tell him, I just did it. See, ownership. But he's really mad at me about it.
Okay. You and your boss have a different definition of ownership.
It is probably true.
Yes. So, you can hang on to your definition of ownership, but it sounds like if you want to keep your job, we have to consider his definition of ownership.
Wish you would tell me what it is. Do you know?
I
Or you just
don't
know it's
know.
different from mine?
All I know is that it's different from yours, and
Okay.
and I haven't heard that you've asked him. what his definition or how he would like you to demonstrate ownership. That I haven't heard.
You did say on these projects I should have followed up with other people about the status of the project, which
Okay.
surprised me because previously he told me I am not allowed to do exactly that.
Okay. So in this case, then we just communicate. We say, I hear that this is how you'd like me to adjust my behavior. In the past, I was informed that you would not like me to do that. So do we have a new understanding of how you'd like me to show up and do the work? Is that right? Ask him that, right? It doesn't,
Probably going to deny he ever said those things.
okay, then just ask him, what do you want me to do? At the end of the day, um, do you want to keep this job?
No, I've been trying to quit for 2 years.
Oh, okay. So do you want to try to make it better with this boss?
Had been my goal to not get fired while looking for another job, but I really keep asking myself, do I care? Is it worth it? Should I just quit?
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. Uh, what do you think? Should you?
Still can't answer the question.
Why not? Why can't you answer the question? What's in the way of making a decision that you like?
Lack of ability to predict the future. If only I could know what would happen.
Hey, welcome to the human condition. None of us know.
Okay. Hi.
You're not gonna know what's gonna happen in the future, whether you stay or go. But again, so here's what I'm sensing. You have been sort of leaning back, for lack of a better phrase, out of this job. Your boss is noticing. And so, um, uh, he's not wrong to have noticed this because what I'm hearing is what I'm hearing from you. What he's saying is what you're also reflecting what he's noticing, right? So instead of getting upset that he's getting upset, let's be like, yeah, of course he's getting upset. You get to decide if this is a problem. And if you decide this is not a problem, it is very the likelihood, the probability of you losing the job grows. And it's not a bad thing. It's not, there's no like moral judgment here. It's okay. People leave jobs, people quit jobs all the time. And sometimes they land on their feet and sometimes they find even better jobs, even better careers, right? But the question becomes, is this the right time for you to lean out, to completely quit this job? Oh, you're nodding your head.
I'm agreeing with the question.
Okay.
I still don't know what the answer is.
If you lost this job, are you going to be okay financially for at least 3 to 6 months?
Foreseeable catastrophe is yes.
Oh, okay. So if the worst came to pass, and if you did get let go from this job, you're gonna have 3 to 6 months to figure out another job.
I'm actually going to walk out laughing as they realize all the things they can't do without me.
Okay, I hear you don't have a problem.
I kind of don't.
You don't have to be upset with this.
I'm mad about it because it's so stupid and unnecessary.
Yeah, but it was also inevitable.
Oh, yes.
Okay, you agree.
I knew all of this when they hired that guy. I knew this was going to happen.
All
I
right,
tried to warn them.
surprise. There's no surprise. There's no surprise for you. There's no surprise from this person. If they let you go, you're like, ha ha. You
Yep.
try figuring this out on your own. And let them.
Yep.
Let them. Okay. So then I think the conclusion is you don't have to try to, work something out. You don't have to accommodate. You don't have to compromise. You can just let it be. That's very Zen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can let him treat me like that and then act all surprised by how I react to it.
Or you could just be like, he doesn't need to change because he's not going to.
He's not going to. He
You're not
really
going
should just
to.
retire. Feels like that would be the simple solution.
But we he's not in this coaching conversation. You are, right? So the only person that can change is you. And only way to change, I think, based on everything you just shared with me, is just be like, sure, go ahead and let me go. You can even, if you'd like, negotiate a severance.
You, if you get fired.
Well, before you get fired, you could be like, hey, I don't think this is working out. I'd be more than happy to, maybe we can work something out so you can let me go. We can do that.
Do that. Good. That would force them to answer the question, is that really what they want? Do they not realize all the things I am doing that no one else knows how to do?
This guy might not know. Yeah.
He should know because the things I'm doing are his job and
Okay.
he doesn't know how to do it.
Okay. Okay. But reality is never what we think it should be. It just is, right? So, if this is the way he finds out, this is the way he learns, let it be.
Yeah.
Yeah. And maybe you'll eventually, in the long aftermath of this, you'll be even happier because you're not working with this person, you're
He's
not,
so great.
right? So maybe, I know it's not pleasant, but maybe this is a silver lining. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So again, to recap, you you don't want to be at this job. If it did let you go, you don't want it. And you have options. You could either like, hey, do you want to let me go? Maybe we can work out a severance. Or you could just be like, okay, and not change. Let him let you go. You could do either one. And you get to decide this is not a problem for you. Does that make sense?
Think about that.
Yeah, think about it. Yeah. Yeah, maybe there are other options we haven't thought of, but at the end of the day, I hear you don't want this job, you don't want to stay at this job. So him saying I'm gonna fire you is like, okay, big
Try.
whoop. Hmm?
Let him try.
Let him try. All right. Anything else? Oh, you froze. Okay. I'm gonna assume that was sufficient. Okay. Big nod. All right. Excellent. Thank you everyone for um, showing up today again. Sorry for the people who think this is Saturday. I will send the replay shortly after this. I'm just curious if there's one thing you're taking away from this, what would it be? Lean back, Nita says. Emily says, you're a gift to us all. And you too are a gift. Take a deep breath. Yeah, yeah, excellent. Janet, anything from you before we wrap up?
I have to go think about some questions now.
Yeah, think about the questions. I think that's a great homework for you. All right. Thank you everyone for coming. I'm going to try to do more of these open sessions and my intention is to, just practice holding the space for a group and also um, demonstrate my value. If you did find this, excuse me, if you found this beneficial, and if you'd like to offer me a 5-star Google review, I'd really appreciate it. And I will send the link to link for you to submit a 5-star Google review. And when you do that, it really helps other people find me online. More and more women are finding me just on Google. So that would be a great help for me. All right. Thank you all and have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye.